South Africa versus England live on TalkSport 2 with Sky Sports. Feel it all and watch every England Test, ODI and T20 live and exclusive on the dedicated Sky Sports Cricket channel.
A very good morning to you. This is TalkSport 2. It is, due to be international cricket coming your way for most of the day. South Africa against England, the one-day international series getting underway at Newlands. However, that is now not going to be the case today. A couple of hours ago, people started to get a bit of a feeling that something wasn't right, as neither team had been sighted at the ground and warm-ups should have been underway. As it turned out, England did arrive, but they were then told to stay on the bus and then turn around because there has been a positive COVID test within the South African camp. As a result of that, today's game has been called off but has been rearranged. Let me just give you the statement that Cricket South Africa issued earlier. They say Cricket South Africa and the England Cricket Board would like to announce the postponement of the first one-dayer to Sunday, the 6th of December. The decision results from a player in the Proteas team testing positive for COVID-19 after the team's last round of scheduled testing, which was done on Thursday, i.e. yesterday, ahead of the one-day internationals. In the interests of safety and the well-being of both teams, match officials and all involved in the match have agreed to postpone the first fixture until Sunday. So what is happening is that they were due to play at Boland Park on Sunday anyway. That now becomes the first game, having been the second game. It remains a day game, so an 8 a.m. start UK time. The first game, which was due to be at Cape Town, has now been slotted in on Monday to become the second game. That now remains a day-night game, so will be an 11 a.m. start UK time, and then Wednesday we will finish up the series as planned at Newland for the third game. Again, that remains a day-night game, so 11 a.m. So we now start on Sunday at Paarl, Monday 11 a.m. for game 2, Wednesday for game 3 at 11 a.m. I'm Andrew McKenna. With me in the commentary box are Steve Harmison and Dame Villas. We'll bring the gentlemen into the conversation in just a moment, but I'm delighted to say that rejoining us is our South African expert, Neil Manthorpe. Manners, you spoke with Butch about, 20 minutes, half an hour or so ago. Is there any further news from any updated news from what you told Mark?
Oh, no, Macca. Just confirmation that I've been asking the question, is this a provisional arrangement? Is this this rescheduling of the series in the hope that it can go ahead, or is it concrete? And I've been told very certainly that both teams have agreed that to the rearranged scheduling, and that I mean, I tried to understand. I asked the question about the medical protocols and the COVID protocols and how many tests would need to be conducted on the remaining players in order for them to be certain, and I didn't get a clear answer. I think possibly anyway, because there isn't a clear answer, but there is, I can tell you, Macca, a determination, absolute determination for this to go ahead, and not just from South Africa. Don't be under the impression that the ECB is having its arm twisted here. There is a determination from them to play the series as well, and to the degree that many years ago, FICA, the Federation of International Cricketers Associations, had a condition of play inserted into all international tours, that there would be no longer would there be back-to-back one-day internationals because of player workload and player safety. So that has been also mutually agreed to be overlooked. Both teams obviously have got enlarged squads, so you may not necessarily get somebody like Mark Wood playing 2 one-day internationals back-to-back. But there really is a desperate determination to play the game, and from the England players as well. I mean, they're on a real fantastic roll from the T20 wins, and there's a whole bunch of new faces in the one-day squad, and for them to make the trip over here over 2 weeks ago, and not to play a single game and to get back on the plane and fly home. I know that's not the priority, and that the players' safety and well-being is the priority. But like I said, Macca, they really do seem very determined to reschedule and go ahead. And the stadium management are going ahead and getting the stadium ready for a game on Monday and Wednesday.
Harmy wants to come in and ask a question at this point. Neil?
Manners,
Hello, Army.
how are you, Manners? Talk us through the protocol of the testing. How many times they're going to get tested? How many times they've been tested? Do they get tested before games, after games, in practice? Is it just before they get to the ground? All that stuff that's going, because there seems to be a little bit of a discrepancy on when players have been tested or when the positive test has come in to when they've potentially been meeting up.
Well, I've also heard slightly conflicting reports, but I know that the Cricket South Africa did as much as they could to copy the protocols adopted by the IPL, and in the IPL they were tested every 6 days. So initially, obviously, when England arrived and South Africa went into the bubble 10 days before the first T20 International at the Vineyard Hotel, which is a mile away, just down the road. They were tested on day 1, day 6, and again on day 9. So they were tested 3 times and needed to have 3 negative tests, obviously. 2 South African players tested positive. They were quarantined immediately, along with 2 other players who had deemed to be in close contact with them. So South Africa had 4 players in quarantine, all of whom were out of quarantine. So that's where the confusion comes in for me. If they had this 10-day period in which everybody had to test positive 3 times, how now can the tour go ahead? Because there was another positive test on Thursday. I would have thought that they would have needed at least another 7 days in order to be certain that nobody else has contracted the virus. But Harmy, as I mentioned to Butch earlier, the South African team have been really, really stringent about contact, even amongst themselves. And in fact, there are 4 players just walking out now from the nets behind me here at the Kelvin Grove end. You'll remember that they're walking out, and they're walking across the outfield, and there's got to be 5 meters between all of them, and they're with their security their security manager, and he seems to be ensuring that they are all very, very socially distant. They're getting more and more distant now as they walk across the outfield. So Harmy, every 6 days was my understanding during the series. Every 6 days they would be tested, and Thursday's test was a routine test, which one South African player tested positive in.
Just to update everyone at the moment, Kugandri Kavenda, the acting CEO of Cricket South Africa, has given a quote to Cricinfo, which I'll read to you, which said, "The doctors on both sides have told us that it is a perceived risk and not an actual risk, but both boards have decided that we would rather have the players not go onto the field if there is any kind of risk at all. Everyone will be tested again today, and there is a 24-hour turnaround for results." It then goes on to say, asked what would happen if there are any more positive cases, Govender said that the board would seek further medical advice, but insisted that the infected player had not come into contact with any others. Neil, a couple of things to pick up there. What is a perceived risk and what's an actual risk? Because I'm not entirely sure I can spot a difference with those. So do you maybe have any insight on that one? And I think the line that will leap out for many people is Cricket South Africa insisting the infected player hasn't come into contact with any others. The odds of that seem frankly astonishing.
I'm not sure, Macca. Honestly, the social distancing has been practiced amongst the squad, certainly the South Africa squad, at the Vineyard Hotel. Now, the team practiced on Thursday, as I understand it, and they were tested in the evening. So it's perfectly possible that everybody went to that. I'm sounding like I'm trying to make a case for that, but and I'm not. I mean, I don't know what happened, but it is perfectly possible that the player who tested positive didn't play in the last T20. Maybe he was feeling a bit under the weather. Maybe he went to his room and ordered room service and didn't see anybody on Thursday night before the results came out on Friday mid-morning. Friday today early morning. So it's not completely impossible, but we're talking about such tiny risks, and I think that's what Kagandri Govender means by a perceived risk rather than a real risk. I'll tell you, there's one scenario that Dr. Shoaib Mundra explained to me. This was at the very beginning of the bubble in the 10-day preparation time. I asked him, how why are you practicing such stringent social distancing measures amongst the squad in the hotel if they are all in a bubble and they've all tested negative? I mean, how could it possibly be breached? And he gave me one scenario, and after he had explained it to me, I said to him, but I mean, the odds on that are like 1,000,000 to 1, aren't they? And he said, I don't know, possibly, but we don't want to take any chances. And the scenario was, there were green zone staff and red zone staff in the hotel. I have to get this right. The green zone staff were all staying in the hotel. Everybody has single rooms, by the way, staff and players. Everyone's got their own room. And the staff who serve food and clean the rooms, which they only did when the players weren't there, they all were staying in the bubble at the hotel. The red zone staff were, for example, those who prepared the food in the kitchen, so the chef. And as Shoaib Mundra said, there would obviously have to be possibly some, if not interaction, some overlap between the red zone staff and the green zone staff. So the chef cooks the meal and then pushes the plate over to the the serving hatch, and then the waiter or waitress picks it up and takes it to serve to the player. So that, the chances of COVID-19 being transmitted in that way, as I said, it sounded like 1,000,000 to 1 to me, particularly with the staff all sanitizing their hands and regularly washing their hands. But if that was the chance that Dr. Shoaib Mundra perceived, then that would be a perceived danger as opposed to a real danger. Don't make any sense?
Just about. Thanks, man. Appreciate that, Matt. Look, I know there's an awful lot still going on at the moment, so you're keeping your ear to the ground. We are expecting a statement from the ECB at some stage once they've had a chance to put it together. As soon as we've got that, we will, of course, bring it to you here on TalkSport 2. But the first one-day international has been postponed from today. We will start on Sunday with the game at Boland Park, which was due to be match number 2. Monday is now an extra game. This game has been slotted in on Monday with a day-night game. So Sunday morning is an 8 a.m. first ball. Monday and Wednesday will be 11 a.m. first balls when this series hopefully gets underway. And do you know what? Maybe there was a bit of a clue that we weren't going to get a completed game in today, because I was just looking at the record of our debutant for TalkSport 2 today, Dane Villas, because his test debut, Bangladesh against South Africa. Bangladesh batted first with 246 for 8 at the end of day 1. It then rained for 4 days and they never finished. His T20 international debut, South Africa 219 for 4, India 71 without loss, 7 overs and 5 balls. It rained. So maybe it was written in the stars that on his TalkSport 2 debut today, Dane Villas wouldn't get a completed game of cricket. That's what we've got. This is TalkSport 2.
South Africa versus England live on TalkSport 2 with Sky Sports. Feel it all and watch every England Test, ODI and T20 live and exclusive on the dedicated Sky Sports Cricket channel.